So today we're diving into some of the, those rumblings in the tech world, those things that seem small now, but could shake things up in a big way. We're talking about the core of our devices, the future of how we get online, even nuclear power. Yeah, get ready for this one.
It's true. It's like we're dealing with tectonic plates. But in the tech world, right, we see these separate shifts happening, but they're really all connected to this bigger picture.
I like that. And the sources for this deep dive are all over the place. Earnings reports that made investors panic a little bit, some deep dives into the AI explosion that's happening, even a CEO's blog post we found. Surprisingly honest, ready to dig in.
Absolutely. Having such a variety of sources shows how complex tech has become,
For sure. Let's start with a little company you might have heard of, ASML. They're basically the unsung heroes of faster phones, right? They make the machines that make the chips. But their latest earnings report, not great.
And this is important. ASML is a bellwether, kind of like the canary in the coal mine for the entire semiconductor industry. When they struggle, everyone should pay attention.
Okay, so break it down for me. What went wrong and why should I care? Just scrolling through my phone. Average person.
So basically, they missed their projected bookings by a lot, which sent their stock like tumbling down. They're pointing to a few reasons for this. First, delays in just building the new chip plants. Then there's less demand coming from China than they expected. And on top of that, their biggest client, Intel, is hitting the brakes on spending because they're restructuring things over there.
Okay, so this ASML situation has me thinking, is this like just temporary thing, or are we about to hit another chip shortage? Like, will this affect my new phone upgrade?
It might not be a full-on shortage, but it could definitely mean slower development of new tech and maybe even pricier gadgets if these companies decide to pass those costs on to us. It's like a bottleneck effect, right? ASML makes machines, and if they can't make enough, it slows down everything else. And not just phones. We're talking all sorts of industries.
Ugh, yeah, seeing that out-of-stock message is the worst. But let's move on to something a bit more, shall we say, exciting. AI. It's everywhere you look these days. Self-driving cars, it still kind of freak me out, those AI art pieces everyone's sharing online. But all that artificial intelligence needs some serious horsepower behind it, which is where NVIDIA comes in. They're riding the AI wave, right?
NVIDIA is the perfect example of how unpredictable the tech world can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make those powerful chips that essentially run AI, and their stock has been, like, through the roof. But even they've had some hiccups recently. Shows just how volatile things are right now.
Totally. It's like everyone wants to be part of the AI boom, but nobody's quite sure where it's going or what it really means yet. So what's causing all these ups and downs? Is it just hype, or is there real substance behind it?
I'd say the demand is definitely real. But just investing in any company that says AI, that's not enough. You got to look deeper. It's not just about following the hype. You got to be smart about it. Look at the fundamentals. Who are their competitors? How much can they actually produce? What's happening with global politics? Everything plays a role.
And speaking of global politics, let's talk about Google, because they're making a surprising move into, get this, nuclear power. Yeah, you're going to have to explain this one, because even I'm a little lost.
Sounds kind of wild, right? Like something out of a movie. But it actually makes sense when you think about what they're trying to do, which is power their data centers with green energy all the time. They're already big on renewables like solar and wind, but those are limited.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? Advanced nuclear power, apparently.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So they're partnering with this company, Kairos Power, to build a new kind of nuclear reactor, supposed to be safer, more efficient, whole 9 yards. It sounds really ambitious. Do you think they can actually pull it off?
I don't know, but what's fascinating to me is how Google's not just, using energy. They're trying to change how it's made. Like, if Google, with all its resources, is looking beyond the usual renewables, is that a sign of what's to come for all of us?
It's a big bet on the future of energy, that's for sure. And speaking of big bets, get this, our next topic takes us from energy grids to outer space. Because we found a company that's launching satellites like it's going out of style, all to give us internet access. And they're not messing around.
This isn't some far-off dream either. They're launching satellites right now, partnering with mobile companies all over the globe, aiming for worldwide coverage in the next few years. Definitely ambitious, to say the least.
It's like they're building a giant internet network in space. I love it. But like with any project this ambitious, there are always doubters. Some people are betting against them, convinced it's all smoke and mirrors.
And that's what makes it so interesting. Billions of dollars on the line, high risk, high reward, the whole package. If they can pull it off, they could change how we think about getting online, like completely disrupt the industry. But if the tech isn't there yet, or they can't figure out the logistics, well, it could be a very expensive lesson for them.
Yikes. Talk about a nail biter.
Mm.
This next story, though, it's a good reminder that even the smartest people in the room can get things wrong sometimes. We've got a peek into the world of an AI investor who made a tough mistake selling their stock in an Indian company way too soon. They missed out on a massive payday.
What's interesting here isn't just the money aspect, though that's definitely part of it. It's the psychology of it all. This investor saw their investment triple, right? Naturally, they decided to cash out. But then the stock price kept skyrocketing after they sold.
Ouch. So what's the lesson here? Don't sell your stocks. Ever.
It's a classic case of getting greedy, right? This investor story just goes to show that getting caught up in the excitement, making a quick profit, can make you miss out on even bigger gains down the line. In a world as fast-moving as AI, patience and understanding what makes a company truly valuable are crucial.
That's some wise advice. Easier said than done, I'm sure, but a good reminder nonetheless, especially for those of us who are just dipping our toes into the world of tech investing. Now, let's shift gears to an industry that never sits still, the world of gaming. It's gone from a niche hobby to a global phenomenon, but even gaming is facing some growing pains right now.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm brewing in the gaming world. We're seeing big layoffs at some major companies, lots of concern about keeping kids safe in online games, and this constant pressure to innovate, to come up with the next big thing or get left behind.
Yeah, it seems like the gaming world moves at warp speed. Today's hottest game is tomorrow's forgotten relic, right? But it's more than just entertainment at this point, right? I mean, what's the bigger picture here?
Gaming is a huge part of our culture now. It influences how we consume media. It drives the development of cutting-edge tech like VR and AR. It's a window into the future of how we connect, how we work, how we play. Paying attention to what's happening in the gaming world, the challenges they're facing, it gives us a glimpse into where society might be headed. Like holding up a mirror to ourselves, you know? We see how technology is shaping us in real time.
It really makes you think about where we're all headed in this digital age, doesn't it? You know, we keep talking about those tremors, those big changes happening in tech, and gaming is a great example, right? It's always changing and evolving. Sometimes good, sometimes, well, not so good.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a microcosm of the tech world at large. Full of potential, but also some real dangers lurking around the corner. And that brings us to a really important point. It's not just about understanding these changes, it's about knowing how to deal with them, how to navigate them.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating tricky waters, let's jump back into the world of chip manufacturing. Remember ASML? We talked about them earlier.
Well, yeah.
Well, their recent earnings report, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It really showed how fragile the whole system is, the global supply chain for chips.
It sure did. It revealed some real vulnerabilities. What ASML is going through really highlights this growing concern around technological sovereignty. Countries are realizing that relying too much on just a few companies or even a few regions for important tech, like semiconductors, that's a big risk.
So it's way bigger than just me getting the newest phone, right? This is about who controls the technology that, runs the world.
That's exactly it. It's become this global race to, lock down chip manufacturing. The U.S. is investing a ton domestically. China's doing the same. Everyone wants to control their own destiny, not rely on others.
Like a high-stakes game of chess, everyone trying to outmaneuver each other. And speaking of strategy, let's circle back to AI for a sec. That investor who sold their stock too early, it got me thinking. How do you even begin to figure out if an AI company is a good investment? It's so complex, changing so fast, it can't just be about looking at their quarterly earnings, right?
You're 100% right. It's a totally different game when it comes to evaluating AI companies. Those traditional metrics, they don't tell the whole story. You really got to get into the weeds. Look at how strong their tech actually is, the team behind it, their partners even, their ethics.
Ethics? Wait, are they being responsible with AI? Making sure it doesn't turn evil or something?
It's becoming a bigger deal, yeah. Because AI is getting more powerful all the time, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to think about the consequences. Investors are starting to look at things like bias and algorithms, data privacy, the effect AI could have on jobs and society as a whole. It's not just about making money anymore.
It's about making money responsibly, I guess. That's good to hear. Okay, remember that company we talked about? The one launching all those satellites for global internet?
Oh, yeah. The space internet, folks.
A lot of people are skeptical, and I get it. It's a huge goal. But there are some big ifs here, right?
Huge ifs. Can they make it work? Satellite internet's not new, but to have it be reliable, fast, and reach every corner of the planet from cities to, like, tiny villages. That's a massive challenge.
It's more than just launching stuff into space, too. They need those ground stations, the receivers people use, deals with telecom companies on the ground. It's a whole thing.
It really is. And then there's the money side. Launching and keeping all those satellites up there, crazy expensive. They need a lot of people to sign up and fast if they want to pay for it all. No guarantee that'll happen.
It's like they're building a spaceship and trying to sell tickets before they know if it can even fly. Talk about pressure.
Right. And we can't forget about the competition. They're not the only ones trying to get a piece of that global internet pie. Existing companies are upping their game, and there are always new players with new ideas coming along.
It's a crowded field. Only time will tell who comes out on top. I guess that's what makes the tech world so exciting, isn't it? Never a dull moment.
Wow. It's wild to think about everything we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
From those tiny chips that, power everything around us to that whole idea of, like, building an internet in space. The future of tech is, well, pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, that's part of what makes it so exciting, though, don't you think? It keeps us on our toes.
Right.
But even with all the unknowns out there, we can still learn a lot from what we're seeing right now.
Totally. Let's take a step back for a sec, look at the bigger picture. What really struck me is how interconnected everything is in tech. One thing affects another, like dominoes. Think about ASML. Their chip production problems, they don't just affect them, right? It ripples out to a bunch of other industries.
Right, exactly. It's like this, I don't know, delicate ecosystem or something. A problem in one spot can quickly spiral out and cause issues everywhere. And this is especially true now that we live in such a globalized world, right? What happens in one country with supply chains or technology, it impacts everyone, for sure. And then there's AI, which is like the buzzword of the century. It's exciting, sure, but it's also easy to get caught up in all the hype. That investor we talked about, the one who sold their stock way too early, they learned that lesson the hard way. You got to be smart about AI.
Couldn't agree more. AI has the potential to, like, completely change our lives, but we're still in the very early stages. The companies that'll win in the long run, they're the ones that are figuring out how to actually use AI to solve real-world problems. And they're doing it ethically, which is important.
Right. And speaking of unexpected moves, Google going all in on nuclear power, that was a big one. Shows you that even the biggest tech companies are rethinking how we power the future, especially with everyone relying more and more on technology.
Yeah, I think it's a sign that the way we get our energy is going to look very different in the years to come. As we use more computing power, we need cleaner, more dependable energy sources. It'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out.
For sure. Okay, from nuclear power, we went straight to space. That company trying to beam internet down to Earth with all those satellites, ambitious doesn't even cover it. But they have a long way to go if they want to take on the big telecom companies and actually, make it profitable.
It's the classic disruptor story, right? Trying to shake things up with a new technology, but facing a huge uphill battle. Will they succeed or just become a warning to others? We'll have to wait and see.
It's true. One thing's for sure, though, when it comes to tech, it's never boring, is it?
Never a dull moment. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Always changing, always evolving. We're all along for the ride, whether we like it or not.
Very true. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of tech, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from all of this?
I'd say the most important thing is this. Don't just sit back and watch it all happen. These trends we talked about, the chip shortage, AI, new energy sources, they're not just like headlines. They had the potential to really impact our lives in big ways. So stay informed, stay curious, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of the tech world. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your eyes open.